Howdy folks, this is Shy06, and I've decided to weigh in on the controversial issue of tiers within Super Smash Bros. Now then, as to why the tier list causes controversy, it is because it offends the most basic principle upon which Super Smash Bros. Brawl was made. The game was made so that people could pick their favorite character and, just go in and fight. And thus the tier list inevitably causes controversy because nobody likes seeing their favorite character get dissed. Smash Wiki has kindly made a nice little page about why tiers do exist. When it goes to the anti-tier arguments, it picks the worst ones it possibly can. Tiers weren't intended, which is obviously a stupid reason, because just because they weren't intended doesn't mean they did not happen. Tiers ruin fun. Once again, not true. This is a matter of perception. Let me see. Tiers shouldn't exist, therefore they don't. Yeah, I think just about anybody can tell you that is complete bull. However, two other arguments it attempts to debunk as anti-tier actually deserve scrutiny. The first being individual matchups are the most important determinant in tier placement, and tiers cause a focus of play to go to high-tier characters, causing them to be the only ones played and thereby reinforcing the tier list. First of all, for the individual matchups are the most important determinant in tier placement. If individual matchups don't matter, then what's the point of having a tier list at all? You make it to try and show how good each character is, and therefore a character to that higher tier should do better than characters are at lower tiers. In other words, it should win over them. If it does not, then what's the point of the tier list? Then it tries to debunk the tiers cause a focus of play to go to high tier characters, causing them to be the only ones played and thereby reinforcing the tier list, claiming that people always play their favorites, which I think is true. But this is also a psychological matter that is actually quite easily proven. It's the concept behind advertising and the bandwagon approach, where basically the player is watching tournament. Oh look, Meta Knight player wearing one tournament. Therefore, if I become good with Meta Knight, I will be able to win tournaments too. Therefore, they begin using Meta Knight. This is simple common sense. Any psychology professor could tell you this. And going into the pro-tier arguments and evaluating them, it is statistically highly improbable that a game as complex and variable, medium, and construct could possibly be balanced. At the same time, I also would argue that how could it possibly be unbalanced? Because the various unbalances will add and subtract together and multiply and divide, and ultimately the equation comes out being balanced because all the unbalances cancel each other out. Even minute differences can cause imbalance. This has nothing to do with the game overall, and just has to do with little differences between characters, such as between Ganondorf and Meta Knight. Meta Knight has superior speed, and against an equally skilled Ganondorf player, will generally win out simply because the Ganondorf won't get a shot off. The final argument. There's a near consensus among professionals that tiers exist, and tiers have developed in many other fighting games that are character selectable. That is complete bull as far as arguments go. That's just the bandwagon approach, which has been established as a logical fallacy. There are just as many people who don't believe in the tier list as there are those that do. And so, therefore, how can this large number of people be right and that large number of people be wrong? Simply because these are professionals. And which going to the concept of professionals, how are they professional? Did they go to college? Did they have a degree? Or have they just played the game so much they have no life and no friends? And well, yeah, that's a completely different issue. And I will attempt to present an argument in this little debate that I also do not think has been addressed. Now, to end their article, Smash Wiki decides to get rid of some quote-unquote myths about the purposes for the tier list. First, I say that tiers are not meant to predict which player will win a given match in any context, which merely leads me to ask, then why have a tier list? Tiers are not meant as a matchup chart, then why have a tier list? Tiers don't define strategic roles. Alright, that makes sense. Tiers are not meant to tell you which character to play. Again, why have a tier list? In its desperation to try and end the controversy about the tier list, all the Smash Wiki article does is prove that the tier list is completely and utterly inconsequential. It doesn't matter. Now, the most important anti-tier argument to me is that ultimately skill decides who wins. It doesn't matter what character one uses. The high skilled player that plays as Ganondorf, Reich, is going to be able to beat the low skill player that plays as Diddy Kong or Falco. Even pro tiers admit that this is true. However, they merely try to downplay this argument by saying that, oh, it only proves that skill overcomes tiers sometimes. But then, seriously, what's the point of having this tier list if it isn't useful for anything? What this means is that all the tier list is just a popularity contest showing which characters professionals like the most. So I mean, why care? So my response to the Smash Wiki conclusion that arguments against the tier list are deficient is simply that that's only because you've only acknowledged the bad anti-tier arguments and are simply ignoring the arguments that actually make sense. As to whether or not tiers actually exist, I'm on the fence about that. But even if they do, I don't think they matter. Let pros have their silly tier list while the rest of us go and enjoy our video game. Thank you and goodbye.